It's the morning edition of Bench Stash, at least for you, good sir.
An ungodly hour. The crack of 8:32 a.m. right now.
Woo! How you feeling?
My coffee. I don't feel like a person.
Well, you better start feeling like a person because we are about to get into another episode of its mock draft season.
Woo!
Today, we have an exciting show for you guys. We are going to draft two separate teams as per usual, using two separate quarterback drafting strategies, one early and one late. And Leo, can you go ahead and just explain to the good people out there what exactly a late round quarterback strategy is?
Sure. So, late round quarterback, surprisingly, not explained at all in its name, is that you wait till the late rounds to pick your quarterback. The idea being that quarterback is so deep and so replaceable, and the difference between your top tier elite quarterback and your replacement level quarterback is so small that you're better off just waiting till the late rounds of your draft to take someone there. And that's kind of the 1A part, and the 1B is you're ideally targeting someone that also has that top 5 upside. So you can find someone that does actually give you an edge. And there are guys every year that seems to go in the late rounds that have that ability. So it's definitely the wait late and hopefully get one of the guys that has the upside.
Yeah, so definitely an apt name for the strategy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so at any given time, you probably have 12 to 15 starting quarterbacks out on the waiver wire in a standard 12-team league. So it is extremely replaceable, and quarterback is probably the least volatile position. It's a good thing that this is a YouTube video, because if this was just a regular podcast, I don't think anyone would understand why I'm laughing at this point.
That'd be even better. They just be like, why is he laughing? He thought
why
that
is
was
he
really
laughing? Yeah, I'm just laughing at my take on the late round quarterback strategy.
Sure.
But yeah, the quarterback is the least volatile position because they touch the ball the most, and they're fairly predictable, typically, as opposed to running backs and wide receivers who their workload can change any given week. So yeah, I think it pays off to wait, but that's not what I'm going to do in this draft. Just to give you guys a comparison, so this is how we're going to run this mock draft. I am drafting out of the 2-hole, and I am going to use an early round quarterback strategy. Leo will be drafting at the other end, and he will be using a late round quarterback strategy. And at the end of the draft, you can take a look at both our teams and see how they stack up and see how you want to draft when it comes to your draft day.
That'd be it. Oh, God. Answer me this, though.
Yes.
A follow-up question on your early versus late.
I'm ready.
What happened to the dinosaurs in the ocean, though? What happened to them? All right, you explain that to me, and then we'll talk about dinosaurs being real.
He brings up a very valid point. If a meteor killed off the dinosaurs, and what about them dinosaurs in the ocean, though?
I actually Googled it after watching that episode because I was like, that's a good point. And it was just something like it turned into an ice age and it made it too cold for everything underwater to live, something like that. Some sciencey bullshit.
Sharks.
Basically.
Sharks.
Yeah, what about sharks? He said sharks, and it was like kind of interesting. And then he's like alligators, and then he was out. He was like, never mind. No.
Yeah. Speaking of dinosaurs, though, answer me this: when would you draft one Frank Gore?
One Frank Gore. Assuming standard scoring.
Standard scoring
depends on the composition of my team. Ideally, like 7th round is the earliest. But if I found myself going wide receiver heavy early on, I might take him in the 6th, because I do think that he is kind of at the end of the tier of a guy that will get the full workload, has a lot of touchdown upside. Basically, an injury is the only thing that's going to slow him down on an assumed elite offense. So I think 6th or 7th is probably the area for him.
Yeah, I think 7th is probably about the earliest I would draft him. It looks like we're about to start here, so I'm going to be coming up on my pick. And it's just a standard draft, so no 0 running back, 0 wide receiver strategy here, other than I will be taking a quarterback early. But just so we can clarify, what would you consider early?
That is a little bit of a gray area on what's early. I bet if you followed ADP, it would just kind of naturally happen. But I think any quarterback before the first 5 rounds, probably, because
Okay.
I consider Russell the second best quarterback this year, and I would take him as soon as the fifth if I was like really, really amped on him. Really, like the sixth is usually where I would find myself grabbing him. So I would say before the fifth. I think you should
Okay.
probably take one in the first like few rounds to really illustrate what
Okay. I'll
happens.
take one. I'll take one by round 3. Wow, Odell going first. I was just gifted Antonio here, or Todd Gurley.
It's possible. What are you
But
gonna do?
but at number 2, I'm going to take Antonio.
I like it. I like
I'm
it.
starting to like the idea of taking the elite wide receiver in the first 3 picks because generally when the draft comes back your way in the second round, you can grab either another elite wide receiver like Alshon if you're going wide receiver, or a Mark Ingram, Doug Martin, Eddie Lacy, LaShawn McCoy.
Eddie
Sometimes is sitting
Twinkletoes.
there. Eddie Twinkletoes. Devon Freeman,
Oh, God.
first round draft pick.
Now I'm with you on that too. I was actually reading bust rate article on Numberfire recently, where it was talking about how the bust rate between RB1 through 6 and RB6 through 12 is identical. They basically both turn into RB1s at the same rate. And so you're better off, instead of taking RB1 through 6, taking an elite wide receiver and then targeting those lower end RB1s, RB6 through 12. And so that basically lends itself to what you're talking about. If you can get an elite wide receiver, take that instead. And then on the other side around, take one of the, like, Mark Ingram, Doug Martins, the lower tier RB1s who are just as likely to hit the RB1 spot.
Wow, this draft is off to an interesting start. Todd Gurley fell to number 8 overall.
That's some screaming hot value.
Screaming hot value.
I, I don't know what you're
think we-
referencing with that. Is that a thing?
No, that's our own thing. That's a bench
Oh,
stash thing
oh.
now.
Wow,
I think we should just record that,
so
and every
lucky.
time we get a value pick, we just play that.
I mean, it's
Boom.
recorded. It exists here now. It wouldn't be hard to
Yeah.
to snip it out and then make it a
Make it
drop.
happen. All right. So,
Eight
who are you
wonder of
looking
the
at
world.
12 here?
So what I've been liking to do in any
Let's hear
mock
it.
where it's possible is to, if not the 12, grab Lamar Azard and Jamal about that base. I think that's like an ideal turn combination. Oh, well, there goes Lamar. So never mind on that.
Yep.
AJ and Dez are both gone. Because at this point, then I'd say, let me grab like Jamal and one of AJ or Dez, but they're both gone too. So at this point, it's probably going to be Jamal and maybe like
Le'Veon Bell.
no. That's like there's actually nothing super wrong with that now that it's reduced to 3 games, but it's just very ballsy. It's very just like nope, I can win those 3 games. It's no problem. Which I don't believe that. I have had teams where I draft and I think they're perfectly, and then I go 0-4 to start the year, and I have to like scramble to make playoffs after that.
Go
So
big or go home.
maybe if this was a best ball, but nah, I'm not gonna go big, and I will certainly not go home.
And you're already at home, technically.
I
so.
am, so I don't have to go home. I am home. So all right, so Jamal made it
Sure.
to me, so he'll
Zeke!
definitely be one of the 2 that I take. Looking at the wide receiver gang, I like Brandon Marshall. He's kind of come in as the first guy after this top tier for me. The more I think about the rankings, but I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna go Jamal and LaShawn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, try
There you
try
go. I
something
like
a little
it.
bit different. I don't know if I'd actually do this in a real draft, but here we are. Let's try it. Let's go running back heavy and see how it works out. See if I can
Now,
make
what,
it up.
what
at
you're
the next
doing is
turn.
you're prepping yourself for tomorrow to see if this is like a viable draft strategy.
I don't
to
think.
take.
Yeah, for
McCoy
the
that
viewers out there, tonight in America time, we're in a draft where I'm in the 12th spot and Derek's in the 11th spot, and I've been just like losing my mind about this because he's just going to snipe everyone that's about to fall to
gonna
me.
It's gonna
Um,
happen.
But anyway, this would never happen anyway because there's no way AJ and Dez and Lamar all go before 12 in that draft. I don't think that happens.
But look at that, Adrian Peterson at 10 overall. Woo!
That's some
That's,
screaming value.
Play that clip again. Screaming hot value. That's close enough, right? Something like that.
Oh dang, that guy went
Jeez.
Zeke and Le'Veon. He's all in, all ceiling, no floor.
This is an interesting mock so far. So it's wide receiver heavy through the first 7 rounds, and then all running backs after that. No one has taken Gronk yet, which is different.
Yeah, we're almost getting to the spot where Gronk's a reasonable pick. Almost.
Todd Gurley, here he comes. He's going to pick Gronk right here. Gurley Gronk.
That's
GG.
probably actually. Devontae.
Devondard.
How I'm actually surprised Gronk is still here. I don't think I've ever seen him slip this far.
Yeah, either have I. Oh, Brandon Marshall.
Ooh, Dez and See, at this point, I don't.
That's a
Okay,
sexy start.
where
right
would you
there.
take Gronk at this point? Would you take him here if you were 6?
I wouldn't, but that's just because I don't think there is that big of a gap between Gronk and the next 5 tight ends.
I mean, I guess Jordan Reed
terms of
showed that
ranking.
last year.
Yeah. And if you're investing a first or second round draft pick on a tight end, he better be like the far and away tight end 1 overall.
I bet this is a result of people being scared that he like hasn't fully practiced since he maybe got injured. Like no one really knows,
Yeah.
which will
Oh,
probably
man,
be nothing
Amari.
come the start of the season. That's kind of a reach at Amari.
Yeah, a little bit
Personally.
high. But he's on the clock and he's got Amari.
God, you were just waiting to drop that.
I had to. I was hoping I could have dropped it on my actual pick, but
Right.
yeah.
But that guy.
I'll be on the clock without
guy
Amari,
sniped you.
unfortunately.
So what do you do if you reach for David Johnson? How do you make that up? What do you pair it with for safety? Is it going to be Doug Martin? I bet this guy goes Doug Martin.
No, you just go all risk and take Alshon Jeffrey, baby.
That
Here
would
it
be the
comes.
all risk. Yeah. See, is it Alshon or Dougie?
Super upside.
It looks like he's about to,
A-Rob.
Ooh.
I didn't realize A-Rob had
Oh
fallen.
wow! All right, that's
direction.
actually pretty good. I would have gone Doug Martin, but also I never would have gone David Johnson. So
Oh, there's Gronk. So I don't even have to make that decision. I wouldn't have drafted him anyways, but spoiler.
I think in my most recent top 200 rankings, I have Gronk as like number 30, and I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna own Gronk.
You know what? I'm going to start off 1 Antonio Brown and 1 Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh shit! You're gonna
I'm
pass
going
up on Dougie Fresh?
Well, I'm hoping he makes it back to me. If not, I'm going full 0 RB all of a
That's what
sudden.
it looks like. No, you gotta take a QB.
Oh, I have to take a QB here. That's right.
I mean,
I'm
I don't think
forced
one's
into
gonna
it.
go yet. Yeah, you're forced into it.
Okay, I'll pick one in the 3rd round just to illustrate the value that you lose when you take a quarterback this early.
If you had remembered that, would you have still gotten Alshon there?
Yeah, I would have.
Oh, okay.
Why not?
Not high on Dougie this year, huh? Okay.
No, I am high on Dougie, but I'm also high on Alshon.
I mean, if
Alshonius Jeffrey.
he can
Oh,
stay healthy, then.
Doug.
Oh, now you don't have to
He's
feel like you're
healthy.
missing out.
He's healthy.
I think that's kind of the end of that tier of running backs anyway.
Alshon Jeffrey, wide receiver 5 this year. Top 5. Bold?
I don't think it's that bold. It's just can he stay healthy? That's really the only question there.
Okay,
Wow.
so I'm
have to
taking a
pass on
quarterback
Keenan
on this
Allen.
pick. I'm taking a quarterback here. Now the question is, do I want 1 Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? Because I am a believer that Cam is going to regress. He'll still be a great quarterback, but he'll be like number 5 rather than number 1 by a long shot.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and take your boy,
Ooh.
Russell Wilson here. First quarterback off the board
It
in
is.
round 3. I like what Seattle is doing. Supposedly, they're trying to be more of a passing offense. I don't know if that's actually going to happen because they have a healthy Rawls, supposedly. And Kristen Michael, who is just tearing everything. The Awakening.
It's
Awakening
finally
has happened.
The hype train is finally leaving the station.
So they could potentially have a dangerous running game, too. So they might just say, you know what, we're going to do what we've always done and be a run-heavy team.
Yeah.
But last year they showed that they are capable of being an elite passing offense,
Yeah.
and Russell Wilson always gives you running
He
yards
does.
as well.
And the scary
The
thing
rushing
about
attack.
those last, whatever it was, 6-7 weeks where they became that passing offense, it's not like suddenly Russell's volume spiked. It's just he became just so efficient. You know, he wasn't throwing that much more than he did before. It was more that they switched to a lot of like 3-step dropbacks and really quick passes, and that just kind of spiked his efficiency, and then it took off from there. I kind of think my philosophy actually with Seattle has kind of changed in the last few days because I think they're probably going to struggle to start the year, given that offensive line. I think it's going to take probably at least a month for that offensive line to really gel, and so I kind of am of the mind of wait on Seattle position players, except for Russell. I think
Buy
he'll
low.
be fine, and then buy low after a month. That's kind of how I'm starting to think about it.
Yeah, that's not bad. Oh, I started a QB run here on the 3rd.
But Jesus, apparently, this is what happens. All right,
Rodgers and Cam Newton.
who made it to me as a result of that? Oh, I was gonna go. So I need to go wide receiver. This is pretty easy. Demarius out of the guys that are left here.
Yeah, the back of the third round.
Yeah, that's pretty good value. And I don't see. I would maybe take Macklin out of this group as my wide receiver too. But let's see what running backs we got. I might just go running back and just really lean into it. Latavius is gone. That breaks my heart. I might go Hyde.
Break my heart.
I'm gonna go Demarius draft. Oh, wow, I didn't even see what the time was. I almost auto drafted. And Carlos Hyde. I like what I've seen so far out of the preseason, how much usage he's getting. He's been the 3-down back. Some of that has been because Jerome's injured, but still, it is Hyde's job to lose, and he'll see a lot of volume if San Francisco can stay just a little bit competitive in games. And the fact that he's gotten some passing down work shows that even if they do fall behind, he might not suddenly be game scripted out. He might keep getting work. So actually, I do like Hyde as like a 4th-round guy to hit that RB1 value if that offense doesn't completely implode.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it before, but he looked like he was playing with cheat codes at certain points last year. So he has the talent. People just kind of forgot about him a little bit because he got injured and then didn't play again. And San Francisco. And we saw, Blaine Gabbert's screen pass to start off their preseason. And I think it just scared everyone. Oh, my God. They're so bad.
It's just scary with Blaine Gabbert there.
Yeah.
So,
maybe old Captain Deadarm can make a return.
I'll still be surprised if Blaine Gabbert is actually the week 1 starter. He's really, really bad. Like, I don't care how okay he was down the stretch last year. He's actually really bad. I think Cap is still... I think the floor between them isn't that much different. And Cap has a higher ceiling, so why not put him in, give him one last shot?
Yeah.
There's a little magic left in that arm. That dead arm.
I think it's going to happen, though. I think Colin Kaepernick, in all seriousness, probably runs the read option a lot more efficiently than Blaine Gabbert. But
no one is afraid of Blaine Gabbert running.
If he already has a dead arm, I mean, that's the news, right? That his arm is it's fallen off completely, and they're trying to sew it back onto his body in hopes that they don't have to start Blaine Gabbert.
His agent came out and was like, "It's not true. He doesn't have a dead arm." So who really knows what's going on?
Yeah, and Ladarius Green doesn't have a concussion. He's has an ankle problem, right?
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about with the headache. It's just my ankle, so who knows what to believe. Maybe Ladarius Green has suddenly become a great value. Who knows?
All right. I'm on the clock. So I'm going to take a running back here since I have 2 wide receiver 5s, basically top 5s, and Antonio and Alshon.
If you're lucky.
I'm going to take a guy that recently I've started to warm up to, just because it seems like he is going to be the 3-down back in Chicago. Based on preseason usage, he's been in there almost every down that the starting offense has been on the field. Fat Jerry's coming. I know a lot of the narrative around Jeremy Langford this offseason has been like he has a loose grip on the starting role, essentially. He has Jordan Howard sneaking up behind him. There's a number of other running backs that might vie for certain reps with the first-team offense. But, I mean, Jeremy Langford's come out and taken basically every starting rep so far through 2 preseason games. I mean, the 3rd preseason game is always the most telling.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Jeremy Langford. He actually looked really good against New England, too. Now it's back to me. Let's see who we have. Dante Moncrief. So I already have 2 elite level wide receivers. I'm going to go ahead and try to stock up with my running back depth. Top of the 5th round. You know what? I think I'm going to just go ahead and take Ryan Matthews here.
I like it.
Yeah, 5th round. I mean, you're getting a starting running back in the 5th round. I know a lot of people are a bit scared of Ryan Matthews because of his injury history. But if you look at what he did last year, I mean, he was one of the better running backs in the league in terms of efficiency numbers. So he came in, spelled a struggling DeMarco DeMurray, and basically looked like the better running back all year long. He should have complete control of the backfield this year. I mean, I know there have been rumors, rumblings of Darren Sproles kind of stealing some passing down work, which could happen. But even if he does lose out, I still think the volume alone as a 1, 2, and sometimes 3 down back will make him worth a 5th round pick. And if you look at the guys that are being drafted around, wow, Rashad Jennings went in the 5th.
That's so
I think
early.
I think that's the highest I've ever seen
That
him
guy's just desperate for
being
running back, and he's
drafted.
like, guess I'll reach for Rashad.
Yeah, geez. I mean, that is kind of the position you put yourself in when you go zero RB. And he went like zero RB light. He went wide receiver 3, and he was
Yeah.
already scrambling to find
He didn't
running
really need
backs.
to reach for Rashad there. He already had Forte. He probably could have waited a little
I
bit.
mean, I would have taken Melvin Gordon there.
Yeah.
I would have taken.
Matt
I wouldn't
Jones
have
is
taken.
still out there.
I would have taken Matt Jones.
Let me ask you, why Ryan Matthews over Matt Jones?
I think I. I mean, just from watching tape, I think Ryan Matthews is a better running back. Now, it comes down to then talent versus opportunity. Matt Jones might have more of an opportunity, but he still has fumbling problems. He was not efficient last year, and he already has an AC joint injury in his shoulder, which might, I don't know, develop into kind of a nagging style injury. I know they're kind of brushing it off right now, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but he never impressed me. There were a couple of plays last year where I was starting to believe in the Matt Jones hype, but watching him for an extended period of time, I was never blown away by Matt Jones. Now, it might not matter this year. If he's the only running back in Washington, he might just receive so much volume that his talent doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with talent in this situation. Take Ryan Matthews, who I believe is a better running back. I believe that he is a perfect running back in their system, and I think that he's going to surprise some people that are doubting him this year.
I'm with you. I like Ryan Matthews. To sum up what I just did, I took Julian Edelman because he was there at the end of the 5th, and I think that's screaming value. Um, and then Dante Moncrief at the turn
I
there.
love
at
that,
6.
yeah.
Yeah, I like Moncrief that late for sure. If that Colts offense is everything that it's supposed to be, or even a fraction of it, then Moncrief will see a lot of volume as the number 2 and the maybe not primary red zone threat with Allen there, but the out of the receiving core, the primary red zone guy. So I like Moncrief, especially as my wide receiver 3. I wouldn't even be upset with him as my wide receiver 2. So I'm happy with my start.
Yeah, that's a great wide receiver 3, actually. And just the way your draft has fallen so far, you have basically 3. I wouldn't say elite. You have 2 elite level running backs, and
Yeah.
then a high upside running back and Hyde. And then you would think, okay, if you went running back 3 out of the first 4 rounds, that you'd be struggling in the wide receiver position. But you got Demarius at a great value, and then Julian and Moncrief.
Yeah, I think wide receiver is just a little bit easier to make up than running back. I think if you saw the flip side of this, it wouldn't look as good.
Yeah. So at the end of the 6th, this decision is pretty easy for me. I'm going to go at. Wait a minute. Now, because he's there at the end of the 6th, I'm going to take Matt Jones.
Yeah, at the end of the 6th, that's really good value. I think you kind of have to take him.
That's ridiculous. I was about to I had John Brown queued up. Like, at the end of the 6th, I'm taking John Smokey Brown.
Yeah.
But then I realized, like, wait a minute. Matt Jones hasn't been taken since I took Ryan Matthews, which is kind of ridiculous if you think
Yeah.
about it. So, I mean, that's value that I can't pass up there. Getting a starting running back in the 6th, and a starting running back that, I mean, theoretically has upside, should be receiving a lot of volume. That's just value that you can't turn away from. And now the hope is that John Brown makes it back to me in the top of the 7th.
Maybe. I will say that this is like a pretty actually ideal start for going quarterback early because you got a good receiving duo and Langford, Matthews, and Jones. I don't think it falls that way in most drafts, but it has worked out for you because all those guys have RB1 upside.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to the 3rd round while I'm waiting for my next pick, you see where I took Russell there, and you kind of compare to the other players that were taken off the board. And so you're talking about if you take a quarterback in the 3rd round, you're taking a quarterback over somebody like potentially Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, Latavius Murray, over a lot of talent that comes in a high impact position, like a wide receiver, running back position. So it is a big risk to, Fitzgerald. to take a
Oh,
quarterback
your boy
early.
John Brown made it to you. This
John
draft
Brown
is
made it to
actually
me.
falling your way exactly. So this is good.
It's my way or the highway. You know, taking it back.
Taking it
Limp
back.
Biscuit.
Give me your CJ Anderson take as I kind of look at the board here. I don't think I've heard you talk about him much this last season.
CJ Manderson. I actually like CJ Anderson this year, and it feels kind of dirty to say that I like him because I don't want to be duped again.
Yeah.
Because so many people were high on CJ Anderson last year. I wasn't like sky high on CJ Anderson last year, but I didn't think he would bust the way he busted.
He busted like impossibly hard.
Yeah, I mean, he came around at the end of the year, but by that point, so many people had given up on him that their first round pick was essentially lost. But this year, I think we see that Kubiak is going to go hard into that zone running scheme, and CJ Anderson is basically the lead dog there. Again, we might be falling into that recency bias. Oh, you're up. I'll put a pause on the CJ Anderson talk
God.
there.
All right. I was hoping Tile Driver would make it to me, but he did not. But that isn't that big of a deal. Oh, did Marvin Jones go too? Oh,
Yeah,
damn
Marvin
it.
Jones went in
I
the
missed
top of
that.
the seventh.
God. All right. Well, Jordan Matthews is still here, and I actually really like that. That's actually kind of
Yeah.
surprising. All right, so I'm going to take Jordan Matthews. I was like, someone had to have slipped for Marvin and Tyler to already be gone, and it
Wow.
was Jordan Matthews.
LeGarrette Blunt went in the seventh.
This has been kind of a weird mock.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't love. I would maybe consider Amir at this point. I think he's getting slept on a little too much. But I think I'm just going to keep drilling on wide receiver, given that I went running back early. And I'm trying to decide between Sterling Shep, Kevin White, Devonta Parker. They're kind of all in a tier. I think I'm going to go Sterling Shepard out of this group.
Sterling Shep.
Yeah, I just think he's kind of the safest of that trio. Kevin White's basically a rookie, so who really knows what he's going to do this year. And Devonta Parker, he had some flashy catches down the stretch last year, but I recently read his reception perception by one Matt Harmon, and it was a little bit alarming. So I think Sterling Shepard might be actually my favorite of that group.
No Deshaun. I would have taken Deshaun there.
I like Deshaun, but I don't know. He's still so boomer bust. I mean, I don't have any qualms taking Deshaun there, but
He's a wide receiver 1 to a Kirk Cousins. How do you pass that value up?
I guess
in the
that's
eighth?
really where we differ, is what Kirk Cousins is doing for this wide receiver. Because I like Deshaun good enough, but I think I just don't. I think that offense might implode a little bit. Is my take.
So you're saying you don't like that then?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I do not like that. So I'll lock in Sterling Shep as the wide receiver 5. Maybe not the most exciting out of that group, but
No, I like it. I mean, he should be a part of a prolific passing offense led by one Eli Manning.
Yeah.
And he's playing opposite Odell Beckham, so he should have an easier matchup week in and week out. I mean, the opposing defenses aren't going to game plan for Sterling Shepard. They're going to game plan for Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness. Did 3 defenses go in the 8th round? This is just...
This is a really weird mock. Like that QB you took started a super early run, and now people are just panicking and taking defenses too. You basically destroyed this mock by taking a QB
I did.
there.
That's what happens with the early round QB draft strategy. You basically just demolish any sense of regularity with a
It's
mock
been great
draft.
for me. It's actually put so much value down at my end of the board. So I hope
Well, I get
someone
who
does
I was
that.
just talking about, basically.
Oh,
and
Deshaun
I can take
Jackson.
Deshaun
Yeah.
Jackson
I like
here
him
at
at
the
that
end
end
of
of
the
the
eighth.
board a little more. Let's see what we
Yeah,
got.
at the end of the 8th. So I have 4 wide receivers now. And that's actually a pretty solid wide receiving core. Now, when it comes back around, since I've already taken my QB, so usually when I'm in the 8th, 9th round, I'm starting to think about, okay, what QB is on the board? Who can I take here? Or should I just wait until the 10th or 11th to take a Tyrod or even a Matt Ryan who's been slipping to the 12th?
Yeah.
But, that's not a concern anymore. I have a quarterback. So, I love this early quarterback strategy. I'm all in.
You're like, oh
I'm
wait, this is
taking
actually working out great.
yeah, I'm taking Russell in the third. It's happening.
I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of crazy QB run is what you would see in a more like home league style draft. Like a lot of people analyzing mock drafts, they look at these expert mocks, which like stuff like this never happens. But in a real draft with your more casual friends, this is exactly the kind of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, it is. And actually, probably even earlier. I've
Yeah.
seen Cam and Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers go off
Aaron.
off the board in the second round.
I bet you are taking one Kevin White here. Oh, or your boy Diglett.
Well, Jay Ajayi's still there. He's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting value.
That, but wide receiver, you know what? I'm not. I'm gonna take Michael Crabtree
Whoa, taking the floor. I like it.
in the ninth round. I mean, Crabtree. He's a pick that a lot of people hate just because of his name still. I've mentioned this before, but if you look at his numbers last year, and the fact that he scored 9 touchdowns and received basically all of the red zone targets in Oakland, I think he snuck up on a lot of people, and I still think a lot of people don't realize how good of a season he had last year. I mean, he was well within the wide receiver 2 range last year overall
Yeah.
in the league.
I'm with you. I think for some reason Michael Crabtree is viewed as like the minivan of the wide receiving group. Like it gets safe, but it's not exciting, so no one wants to do it. Everyone wants your flashier hype guys like Sterling Shepard or Devonta Parker. But I'm with you actually. I like Crabtree a lot, especially where he's going like ninth round. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, and as a Raiders fan too, I've been able to see essentially the chemistry that he has with Derek Carr and Cooper. I mean, if you look at the disparity between where Cooper is going and where Crabtree is going, and they, I mean, essentially had the same numbers last year. I mean, it's pretty startling. That's great value in the ninth. You're up.
Oh God! All right, so I'm here in the ninth. This isn't normally where I'd start to look at QB, and as I do, Philip Rivers is here.
Ooh,
Which
at
is
the
pretty-
end of the ninth.
Yeah, that's really good value. So I'm definitely gonna take him with one of these picks.
Hot value.
And as I look at the receiving group, I like Corey Coleman, but it's like it's a little bit early. He'd be my 6th wide receiver. I don't know if I really need to reach this much for my 6th wide receiver. I think. Let me lock in Phil Rivers here, bastard of the Trident.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I think a guy that I've been warming up to, that it seems to just be hated by the entire industry, is Isaiah Crowell. I'm going to take her.
Oh, there we go.
Beginning of the 10th. I think he's hated because he wasn't very good for the first like 3 quarters of the season last year, and everyone's just assuming that offense is going to be a dumpster fire, and they're going to be throwing the whole time, and he's going to have no scoring opportunities, and it's going to be all Duke Johnson. But
Game script, right?
if you sort of take all those assumptions away, because they are assumptions, it's possible that they are competitive enough that he is on the field a decent amount and he does get scoring opportunities. You know, RG3 once upon a time was a passable quarterback. And also, just more like statistically, if you look down the stretch last year, in the last 5 games, Isaiah Crowell averaged 5.5 yards a carry and was actually pretty good once they switched offensive coordinators and started using him a little differently. Now with Hugh Jackson there, I think there's some upside there with Crowell. I think that he could have like a Jeremy Hill-like renaissance year, and in the 10th round as my 4th running back, I'll take it.
I'll take it. I would take it as well. Hugh Jackson, man, he's a running back whisperer. Not really, but
No, not really, but
he did. I mean, it just sounded good, you know.
yeah.
All right, let's see. I only have 3 running backs. Let's see who is left in this position. A bunch of running backs that would be solid in PPR, but not a lot left.
I don't understand why
Not
Alfred Morris is
lot
this high on the
left.
list. What has happened
I
on
don't
Fantasy
know what's
Football
going on.
Calculator that he's here?
QB, why am I looking at QB? This is how habitual it is.
You're just like an autopilot,
Let's
like,
take a
all right,
look.
time to look at
Yeah.
the quarterback.
Tight end. All right, I think I'm going to just have to make my pick, which is going to be one Bilal Powell
Nice.
here
I like
in the
it.
10th. Yeah, I mean, word is it's going to be basically a split with Matt Forte. Now, there was recent news that Carlos Williams was visiting the Jets. So I don't know if that's going to disrupt Bilal Powell's, I guess, piece of the offense.
Yeah.
But so far, nothing has happened. He hasn't been signed. Carlos Williams is officially a free agent, so he's free to sign anywhere he wants. He is suspended for the first part of the season. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed a free agent until after that suspension.
yeah, I mean, with his ham sandwich of an offseason, I don't think many teams are kind of that high on him right now.
It's also like a pretty big red flag that the Bills were willing to cut bait on him so quickly. Like I understand he was suspended 4 games and he came to camp out of shape, but that's you usually don't cut someone that quickly over that. So it makes me think there's something else going on there too.
Yeah, most likely. It did seem a little bit odd that, like, oh, he gained some weight because his girlfriend or wife was pregnant. Uh, life was hard.
Just means he's
And
a
then
he's a loving partner, man. That sympathy weight. It's a good sign.
that's how I view it. Think about it as a team player, really.
Sure,
Just
sure.
make those sacrifices to get you to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
All right, let's see. 11th round. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and take somebody who, if they would have scored more touchdowns last
Here
year,
we
would
go.
have been in the elite tier of tight ends. I'm going to draft one Zach Ertz in the 11th round. I think the 11th, 12th round is where I start to look at tight ends anyways. I don't typically draft tight ends early unless there's a screaming hot value earlier on in the
You
draft.
just, you just like
gonna
really
keep
want
going.
that to be cut out. You're just like I'm just gonna keep doing a bunch of little different ones until eventually.
I don't
one's
even
good
think
for a
it's been
drop.
consistent, to be honest. I think
No.
I've been changing it up every single time.
It's been a
but
little
that's the
different
fun
every
of it.
time, which makes it better, worse. Who's to say?
Yeah. I don't know. But Zach Ertz, I mean, he was targeted a whole heap last season. And albeit a lot of it came in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
That's kind of when Jordan Matthews had his renaissance as well. So
Renaissance.
they put up a lot of their numbers in the last 4 games. But Zach Ertz was also one of those tight ends that had extremely high volume but didn't cash in the touchdown department. Whereas if he would have had like 2 or 3 more touchdowns, he would have been right up there with like Tyler Eifert and almost in that range. But basically, I think you were the one who was telling me that he was scoring touchdowns at like a super low clip.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was so low that he's got to regress positively to just some more version of the touchdown rate mean. So let me look
you're
at
on
my
the
picks
clock.
before I just talk through this in auto drafts like you always do.
Yeah. So far, so good for me in this draft, though.
So
It hasn't
far,
happened yet.
So good for you. So as I look here, I think I'm going to look back at wide receiver. It's a little bit early, but I like Tyler Boyd this year, so I think I'm going to take him.
Oh, I like it.
And as I look at, I'm going to pivot and look at tight end, the 12th round. I'm kind of with you. Is usually the time I start looking too. And I like Dwayne Allen a lot this year. But honestly, the more I look at the tight end pool, the more I'm like, I can just wait till the 14th and take like anyone that's still there and be happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a big difference between Dwayne Allen, Eric Ebron, Zach Miller. I mean, then you have the high upside guys like Vance and Clive.
Yeah. So I'm going to go the other way and take a Devontae Booker.
Devontae Booker, yeah.
Devontae Booker. I'll explain both of these picks. Tyler Boyd is, I mean, Brandon LaFell's there, but just pretend like Brandon LaFell isn't there, and that's how you should view Tyler Boyd. I think he pretty quickly becomes a number 2 in that offense, and they can't actually throw every single ball to A.J. Green. They have to spread it out some amount, and so I think he ends up benefiting from that. 11th is a little early, but I kind of don't worry about ADP as much once you get into the later rounds, because then it's just kind of go for the guys you like, because the difference between an 11th or 12th round pick and a 13th or 14th is pretty small. At that point, you're just kind of grabbing from the pool of all the upside guys. So I've reached a little bit because I don't think he's coming back to me at the next turn. Same with Devontae Booker. For Devontae Booker to not get work, you have to assume C.J. Anderson's going to be the 3-down back who is able to hold that job the whole year. And I think Booker is at least as talented as C.J. Manderson, maybe more. So I like him to start getting work. Maybe not early. Maybe this is C.J. Anderson's job for the first half of the season, in which case I cut him and it's not a big deal because it's my 12th round pick. But if by some chance he starts the year hot, I'll be pretty happy. I took him where I did.
Starts the year hot or starts the year screaming hot?
You're not going to finish it off. Value. You're not going to.
No, value doesn't really apply to the statement.
I guess not.
Okay. Oh, I wonder if Sammy Coates.
Sammy Coates, I don't really know what to make of him. He's very hyped, but he's done nothing in the preseason, which I guess doesn't mean that much because it's the preseason, but still, it's a little concerning to see that he just like hasn't been involved at all.
Love me. Well, they're trying to feed him. The problem is that he's been making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Basically, like he's fumbled a couple times. He's basically been the direct cause of an interception or two. But they're trying to get him the ball, which tells me they're kind of like auditioning that second wide receiver position. Like, are we really going to run with Marcus Wheaton? Or are we going to try to give it to somebody who could potentially break things open for us, like Sammy Coates, who kind of fits into that Martavis Bryant role? Wow,
Watch it be
okay.
Darius Hayward Bay. Just watch.
DHB, baby, elite. Those hands. In the 12th round, I'm just going to go ahead and take James White. I'm surprised he fell this far with the Dion Lewis news. Actually, in this mock, who was it that took LeGarrette Blount? In the 7th. LeGarrette Blount went in the 7th. So, AMC, Team AMC that drafted LeGarrette Blount, they figure with Dion Lewis being out that Blount's going to get the majority of the carries, but I think James White has a lot of value now, more so in a PPR league. I think in a PPR league, James White you can take in the 9th or 10th round, realistically. Since this is a standard league, I'm happy taking James White in the 12th. Now with this is basically the last pick before I would take a defense and a kicker. I'm going to take another hyped player this preseason.
Ooh,
Take one
Tajay
Sharp. Tajay Sharp, who apparently has complete symbiosis with Marcus Mariota right now. They're like mind melding in the preseason. But I don't know if that's going to translate to the regular season. We've seen this time and time again where a player comes, lights it up, gets hyped beyond belief, and then as soon as the regular season starts, they just completely disappear. Now, I don't think that will be the case with Tajay Sharp. I don't really fully believe that he's going to be like a true fantasy impact wide receiver just because of the offense that he is a part of, but he does have the upside to where he could be relevant, and I'll take a chance in the 13th round.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Just there's an opening there for him to have a big role because Rashard Matthews is kind of the only meaningful guy there, besides your boy Laney.
Walker.
Yeah.
Laney, who went in the 6th round, by the way.
So here I am at the end of the 13th, my last position pick. And Dwayne Allen is here. And out of this group, he's like the easy guy to just take. And then I'll just fill out defense and kicker.
Fill it out.
Fill it out. Bengals defense, why not? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, you basically had first pick in the 14th round there. I mean, but look at all the defenses that went off the board before.
God,
it's just unbelievable. Oh,
I want to say this is a weird draft, but I think this is actually pretty indicative of your normal home league draft. You just don't see that very often in mocks. I guess it's just because we're getting closer to the season actually starting. More of the casuals are coming out of the woodwork.
8th round for a defense. So 3 defenses in the 8th round. I can't.
Steven Gostkowski in the 11th round.
Oh, if you're gonna reach for a kicker, at least you reach for the right one.
Yeah, at least he's reaching for the best one. Something.
I know, trying to look for the positives, right? Okay, well, I mean, this is basically the least interesting part of the mock draft. So I can take a defense here. I can take a kicker. Really, I can do whatever I want. Defense, let's go ahead and take... I'm going to make a homer pick. Take the high upside Oakland defense, the new revamped Oakland defense with Khalil Mockingbird Mack.
Khalil Mockingbird Mack. That is just a god-awful nickname.
That's the best nickname out there. And now I take a kicker, and I will not be taking Josh Brown. Let's go with Blair Walsh, who you should appreciate as a Seattle fan.
I do. He won the game for us.
Yeah,
It
he was
turned
your
out to
best
be
player. He was your
meaningless,
MVP
but
last year.
he was definitely our playoffs MVP last year for sure. Poor Minnesota fans, man, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's brutal, brutal.
Why didn't you take your boy Janikowski, huh? Go full homer.
Eh, I think because Oakland's going to be scoring so many touchdowns that it's really just extra points.
God. All right, I'll take Matt Bryant because I don't know. Maybe Atlanta's good. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there we go.
All
Boom!
right,
It's in the books.
it's in the books. All
Another
right.
mock draft slayed, smushed, dominated, annihilated with a whole bunch of screaming hot
Oh
values.
my God. Well, tell me about your team. How do you like your team going early quarterback?
Surprisingly, it's not a terrible team. I mean, I said that with so much confidence.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. I mean, I did actually go in with the mindset that it would be a somewhat bad team just because I really don't like taking quarterbacks early because of the value that you pass up in high impact positions, as I was talking about earlier. But to start off, Antonio and Alshon still get starting running backs in Langford and Matthews, and then Jones somehow slipped to me at the end of the sixth. I
Yeah.
think that was a turning point for the draft. If I would have been stuck with I don't know, even like a Derrick Henry there, the draft would have looked a lot worse for me. But Matt Jones
Yeah.
is the clear-cut starter. That's kind of the line. He is the guy in Washington. He's not a running back that is in need of something to happen in front of him in order to get that opportunity. So the fact that Matt Jones was there at the end of the sixth kind of made the draft for me, and I was still able to get John Brown. So that sixth, seventh round range is where I kind of decided, it could be a lot worse
Yeah.
than how this draft ended up. And I got Deshaun Jackson and Michael Crabtree in the eighth and ninth. So if you look at my wide receiving core, I mean, you're talking Antonio, Alshon, John Brown, Deshaun Jackson, Michael Crabtree. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a very
Let's
good
say
receiving
you-
group. Yeah, I'm actually surprised at how your team turned out. It definitely was that 6-7 turn. You very easily could have not gotten Matt Jones or John Brown, and then yeah, you're looking at like Derrick Henry, Duke Johnson. Maybe you just wait on running back more. Who knows what you would have done?
Yeah.
So that was definitely like that's what saves you for sure. But just imagine replace Russell Wilson with like Keenan Allen or C.J. Anderson, Latavius Murray. Just take any one of the next like upside picks, and then replace James White with like a Matt Ryan, and
Yeah.
that team is better for sure.
Yeah, oh, much better. I mean, a wide receiver trio to start of Brown, Jeffrey, and I mean, any one of Cooks, Allen, or T.Y. Hilton, or Sammy Watkins. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm sky high on Sammy Watkins this year. I know I probably shouldn't be, but it's just that elite talent. It gets me every time.
He's so
He
good.
could be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league.
he could. If
I
he
mean,
could stay
from
healthy,
a talent
yeah.
perspective,
Yeah.
but he can't stay healthy. Apparently, we're going to see his preseason opener, or his first appearance in a preseason game this week. So,
And which will get banged up
which he'll probably play like 3 snaps and
Yeah.
then get hurt.
and then get hurt.
And my hopes and dreams will be crushed. But yeah, I would have loved to I probably would have taken Sammy Watkins there because as a third wide receiver, you have, I mean, he's oozing with upside. You already have an Antonio and an Alshon, and then to get a Sammy Watkins. The only problem there is I would have Sammy and Alshon on my team, which is actually the same combination of wide receivers that I had on my team last year. And it was just, I mean,
It's scary.
I had to basically bench Watkins because he was hurt for most of the season, and Alshon, you never knew. It was that dance like the night before, like, is he going to play? Is he not? And now all the players are going to be questionable. Did you see that?
No
The
more
new-
probable. Yeah, that's
I know.
awful. That's just especially for anyone that like owns any Patriots where they're already mostly questionable, but now they will just everyone will be questionable.
Every single one.
Yeah.
So your draft was more of a standard draft. I mean, you normally draft quarterbacks late, so this was
Yeah.
not really anything different for you. But
No, this is
how do you
probably
like
what I
your
would have done here, regardless. And just if I hopped into a mock, being like, let's see what happens, is probably what I would have come out with. Yeah, I like it, especially being at that turn, getting Jamal and McCoy. A lot of that depended on a receiver falling, though. The fact that Jameis made it to me in the third kind of saves that heavy running back start. If he
Yep.
hadn't, let's say one of these guys that reached for Rodgers or Cam didn't, and Demarius was gone, then I would have been looking at, my wide receiver one being Macklin or Kelvin or Doug Baldwin, which, I mean, Macklin as a wide receiver one isn't bad. It's just not.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Demarius Thomas for sure. And so I would have heard it a little bit.
Yeah.
But then after that, and then Carlos Hyde is a third. Again, he doesn't usually slip to there, so that was kind of a nice value to get those two at the turn. I was prepared to come out with like Macklin and DeMarco Murray, which is not as strong for sure. And then after that, I just kind of hammered on wide receiver because I tend to like wide receivers in that range more than running backs. You look at the running backs that went in those 4 rounds. Really, you got to look from like the end of round 6 on because everyone around 5 had gone before my pick, and it's it's a lot of kind of shaky either pass catching backs or committee guys. I mean, Matt Jones being the only one that was I considered taking Matt Jones to that turn, going Edelman and Jones, but then Moncrief was there, and I said, oh, why not? I already have a strong starting trio. And then after that, hammer on wide receiver. Rivers there in the 9th. Can't really pass that up. And that's usually where I start looking, for quarterbacks is the 9th round. I would take Rivers in the 8th, maybe. I wouldn't have a problem taking him in the 8th. If you could convince me to do that, probably. So
I won't, but I could.
You could, yeah. So end of the 9th is just great value for Rivers. And then Corral
Screaming hot.
Value.
Yep. Thank you.
I already gave my spiel on Corral, but I like him as an RB4. And after that, it was just my sort of upside flag guys, if you want to call them that. But pretty interchangeable with any of these high upside wide receiver or running backs. Dwayne Allen is my tight end at the 13th. It's just bananas. And then I like this. I like this squad quite a bit. I'd be happy with this in a real draft if things fell this way.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like both of our teams. I like your team, definitely, because the fact that you were able to get basically three running backs that have the potential to be RB1s and then load up on wide receivers. I think your draft is a perfect example of why I prefer, at least. I'm not going to go ahead and say it's better because, I mean, it might not be, but it's just a personal philosophy to start off and go ahead and grab those elite level running backs.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are scared and say, well, what if they A, bust or B, get injured? But, I mean, the positional scarcity dictates taking a running back early regardless. They don't always get injured. They get injured at a higher rate, but it shouldn't scare you completely away because wide receivers get injured too. Wide receivers bust too. So you look at the running backs that went off the board in the middle of the round like you were touching on, and then compare them to the wide receivers that were available, and you're comparing guys like Rashad Jennings. Okay, yes, he's a starting running back for New York, but he's at like the lower end. If you compare all 32 running backs in the NFL, he's towards the bottom. He's still a viable fantasy play, but when you're comparing him to the wide receivers that are still available there, I mean, we're talking, you have Golden Tate, you have Eric Decker, you have Julian Edelman, Dante Moncrief, Michael Floyd, you have a high upside guy in Josh Gordon who went too early in my opinion, but he's there. And then these guys like Marvin Jones, Tyler Lockett. I mean, you could probably list 20 to 30 wide receivers that could potentially end up as a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. They have that potential that are just sitting there in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. So if you do load up early on the running back, then you have those guys waiting for you. And I think it turns out better that way rather than grabbing the elite wide receiver and then ending up with the pass-catching back as your running back 1.
Yeah, and I think it pairs well with zero RB being the sort of trend these days because then, everyone is going wide receiver heavy early, so you kind of zag and go running back heavy early. And then you reach the mid-rounds, and that's when everyone is hammering on running backs to make up for it, and that allows wide receivers to become valuable. So it kind of pairs well with the trends right now. I will say, as to find a knock against my team, Jamal and McCoy is like a very fragile running back duo. Like that, the upside is there. They both have that top 3 upside. We've seen them do it. But it's, Charles is over that 30 threshold coming off a torn ACL. That's scary. And McCoy couldn't stay healthy last season, and he's been banged up more and more. And so if he can't play a full season, then that pick doesn't look great. So it was definitely it's a risky pair to have. The upside is there, but it could very easily blow up in my face.
Okay. If you had to give me your top 5 least likely to bust running backs,
Least
who would
likely
they
to
be?
bust.
I mean, in terms of injury or just not playing well.
Right. Number one would be Todd Gurley. I don't think there's
God turdly.
God, it would take like that offensive line imploding in a spectacular way for him and that quarterback play. It would take like a perfect storm of shit for him to just be unproductive. Todd Gurley, Lamar Miller, number 2. There's no one else there. He's going to be the guy. Even if the ceiling doesn't work out like it could based off of his talent, he should still be super safe.
Yeah, Tyler Irvin, baby. He's coming.
I remember he was trendy in July for a little bit, then everyone stopped talking about him. I don't know if I'd call Adrian Peterson safe just because of the age.
Yeah.
It's starting to. He's at that point. Like, he did miss a whole season, so it's kind of like maybe he's really a year younger. But the cliff's coming, and you just never know when. Like, Marshawn looked like he was going to be fine last year, and then the cliff came. So probably not Peterson, honestly.
So we have 2 so far.
2 so far.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like talking my way through this. Like Mark Ingram, I think, is very safe. He didn't play a full 16 last season, but it also wasn't like your normal getting banged up kind of injury. It was kind of a weird thing. So I could see Ingram playing a full 16. I think he's very safe. Maybe Doug Martin. Maybe. I think he's safer, but I think it's just he does depend a little bit on, can that offense be good? I'll say he's pretty safe.
Dougie Mars bar.
Yeah, I think he's pretty safe. I'm kind of basing this off of value, too. Like, Adrian Peterson isn't going to follow the 10th overall pick. He's usually a top 5 pick you got to take.
Yeah.
Whereas Doug Martin, you can get him to the end of the second. And so I think safe-wise, Doug Martin. And then after that, I would actually say Latavius Murray is probably my 5th safest running back. Because he's the guy
you're
there.
Going to go that way.
Yeah. He's going to get so much work, even if, again, he's inefficient with it like he was last year after getting banged up. He's the guy there. It would take like an actual serious injury for him to lose some of that volume. So again, who knows really what his ceiling is, but the floor is so high that I think he's very safe.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised he went as high as he did. There's been a lot of hate for Latavius Murray this offseason just because of his inefficiency. Yeah. And actually within the Oakland community, the fans of the Raiders don't even like Latavius Murray. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was reading through the forums today, and it's just they're ready. They're ready for him to go. They want to see Jalen Richard, who is like an undrafted signee, who may or may not make the final 53. They want to see him get reps with the first team over Latavius Murray. Huh. They definitely want to see DeAndre Washington get the first reps.
Yeah.
So I guess some of it is warranted. If you look at his tape, sometimes he runs a little bit too upright. Sometimes he doesn't find the perfect hole. Mm. But he has that downhill speed. He's kind of like, I'm not going to say he's the other Murray, DeMarco Murray, but once he gets moving forward, he is a difficult running back to stop. And he has that breakaway speed, which is a bit deceiving considering he's a big running back. He's 6'3", and he can gallop like a gazelle. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people do rag on the fact that he can't blow people up. Like, he's not that violent type of runner. He's almost like a finesse type of runner where he'll find his seam and then he'll just run.
Yeah.
But I think you're right with the volume there, and he is a talented back. We have to remember last year was his first full season playing. It's basically his rookie year. He played a couple of games the year before, 3, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then last year was his first full season. So, I mean, he had a good offseason. He could come in and surprise a lot of people. And if he falls into the 4th round, which he normally does, he normally falls into about the top of the 4th is where I see him going a lot. And I think that's just, I'm not going to say it again, but it's good value. It's good value. I'm not going to go where you thought I was going to go, but
yeah,
it's solid.
I'm with you. Would you change any of those top 5 safest running backs? Is there anyone you would sub in?
David Johnson.
Oh, of course. Obviously.
I'm just kidding. Todd Gurley would be my number 1. Lamar Miller. Adrian Peterson is tough because theoretically he should be safe. It's really only the age. He doesn't have the other factors. Like when you're talking about Jamal Charles, he's coming off a second torn ACL.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that. I mean, Adrian Peterson did tear his ACL too, but he's never really been super injury prone like LaShawn McCoy, who always seems to have these nagging injuries, these leg injuries that are bothering him perpetually.
Yeah.
Le'Veon obviously is swimming with risks this year. Lacey, no. I mean, we saw him bust last year, so there's no way we can put him in the top 5 safest running backs.
Yeah, no.
Freeman, no, definitely not. So yeah, I think I'm basically right where you were. I just have a hard time not including Adrian Peterson at least as like a number 5 on that list.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against replacing Doug Martin with Adrian Peterson because Doug is pretty dependent on that offense being good. And Adrian Peterson, it really is just, well, he's reached this age, so he has to be bad, right? So I wouldn't have a problem making that swap. That's fair.
Yeah.
Probably...
Speaking of Doug Martin, though, did you catch any of Tampa's last preseason game?
No, I didn't.
Just Jameis Winston looked like hot, stinky hot garbage. He looked awful. And I mean, it's not going to sway my opinion. I am somewhat high on Winston this year, only because he's going in like the 12th or 13th round. So I think he is a perfect, like, if you're just punting the quarterback position and saying you're going to wait till the 13th to grab a quarterback, then Jameis Winston's a perfect target. Supposedly he worked out like a champ. He came into camp all fit, and he's been throwing the ball well, and they're expecting him to take a big step forward. So I'm not going to be swayed by one preseason game, but he looked like Blaine Gabbert, basically. Yeah, it was ugly. It was really, really ugly. But the only preseason game that really matters is this week's. This week's slate of games is what you should really be focusing on. This is basically what they call the dress rehearsal for the regular season. The 4th week of the preseason doesn't really matter. So
yeah,
pay attention to the games this week. Before we close it out, I know we're kind of running up the time. Dez Bryant, we didn't talk about his concussion.
Oh, yeah.
He has a concussion.
Super concussed.
Yeah. Ladarius Green, here we come.
I don't 100% sure. It's never great when anyone gets a concussion, but we're still over 2 weeks away from the start of the season. He, in theory, should be fine by then. So it's really I'm not too worried about it. If anything, I think it's kind of good for his value because he won't play in the rest of preseason at this point, which might make him slide into the second round in a lot of drafts, which at that point, there's no reason not to take him there. I think that's if you were sitting there, I know I was sitting there being like, I don't know if I like AJ Green or Dez more, and I'm still not totally sure, but I guess if I need something to be a tiebreaker, it might as well be that. Because it's never good to start off the season already coming off an injury. It's already a bad sign.
Especially after last year, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that could push his ADP down a little bit. I don't know if he'll slide into the second. I would love if he slid into the second, actually. But you're right. He's already ruled out for this week. Definitely won't play in the 4th preseason game. There's no reason to play him in the 4th preseason game, especially with head injuries. They're so unpredictable. They basically have no timetable. So that would be a foolish move for Dallas to put him in the 4th preseason game. So at this point, you're hoping for him to suit up in week 1.
Yeah.
Definitely something to monitor, though, because if you're investing a first-round pick and it turns out to be one of those murky situations where it's on and off again, like, oh, we're just waiting for him to get that clearance so he can practice, and then, oh, he's questionable, and then he doesn't play. You just never know with these head injuries. They're the most frustrating, as a player and as a fan, I'm sure, because with any other sort of injury, there's a general timetable. But with concussions, you're just in the dark, basically. It could be, he might come back this week. He might come back in 10 weeks. We don't really know.
That's very true. That is definitely... Because if he starts missing week 1 or week 2, then his value already starts dropping. Yeah, so I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Just maybe bump him down
no
one or
need
two
to
spots.
panic yet. Not yet, at least. If we're still having this conversation right before week 1, then I think things start to get a little bit more scary.
Yeah, he was already at the end of that tier. Maybe I would have had him ahead of DeAndre Hopkins, maybe at this point I take Hopkins over Dez. I don't know. Maybe I still wouldn't do that, but it makes it a little more reasonable.
Yeah. I'm surprised Hopkins went so high, actually. I guess he's typically the fourth wide receiver off the board. I just much prefer taking AJ Green as the fourth wide receiver
Yeah.
off the board.
No, I'm with you on that. All right, let's wrap this
All right.
up.
Let's wrap it up, put a bow on it, and end it with... Okay, we're not going to end it with a screaming hot value yet. I think we should probably throw a shout out to Fantasy Football Calculator for basically, well, they're not allowing us to use their site, but for providing a wonderful site for us to mock for you guys. And Bleacher Breaker, our lovely sponsors, www.bleacherbreaker.com. Go check them out.
Yep. Like, subscribe, comment. Thanks to everyone who watches. I got to throw a shout out to my lovely girlfriend Alex, who does all the work to make YouTube work for us.
Yes.
Basically, our YouTube intern, involuntarily. So,
I will second that shout out.
yeah.
Because, yeah, if we didn't have Alex, then none of these videos would probably be posted.
No, they'd just be sitting here being like, "What do we do with these now? I don't know." Forget it.
So thank you, Alex. And yeah, I like to
let's
thank
wrap it up.
myself for coming up with little catchphrases like "screaming hot values," dab, end it.
Oh, okay.